Good morning, distinguished shareholders. Before we commence deliberations on resolutions on the meeting agenda, we have a pre-agenda item to deal with.
Circulation of the financial year 2021 annual report and accounts. Good morning, distinguished shareholders, members of the Board of Directors, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to welcome you all to the 53rd Annual General Meeting of our company, Union Bank of Nigeria, PLC. I would like to draw the attention of shareholders to the fact that the audited financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2021 and the notice of annual general meeting were published within the prescribed time frame. However, after the publication of the group audited financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2021, the 2021 financial year annual reports and accounts were circulated to shareholders after the prescribed 21 days before the meeting. In the light of this disclosure and to cure the said delayed circulation of the 2021 financial year annual report and accounts, I hereby call on a shareholder to move the following motion: that shareholders approve that the bank's 52nd annual general meeting should proceed as published in the notice of meeting. Would someone please rise and move the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The name is Adebayo Williams. I rise to move that motion.
Thank you. Would someone please second the motion? Thank you very much. Would those in favor of the motion please signify by raising their hands? Excellent. I hereby declare that the motion has duly been carried. Sorry. Would those against the motion please signify by raising their hands? None, sorry. I hereby declare that the motion has been duly carried.
On the 23rd of September 2022, the Corporate Affairs Commission approved that the bank's 53rd annual general meeting be convened by way of proxies to consider only ordinary business in accordance with CAC's approved guidelines thereon. The Nigerian Exchange Limited also adopted the CAC's above-mentioned approval. As such, this annual general meeting will be conducted by proxies.
Based on the approval of the CAC and NGX to convene the annual general meeting by way of proxies, the company registrar received executed proxy forms sent in by shareholders. I now call on Mr. Raymond Akokota, representative of the company registrar, to present the proxy report, i.e. a disclosure of members in attendance at this meeting in person or by proxy, for the purpose of determining that this meeting is correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board of Directors, regulators here present, and distinguished shareholders of Union Bank of Nigeria PLC. I welcome you once more to the 53rd Annual General Meeting of Union Bank of Nigeria PLC. As registrars, we're here to deliver the proxy report for this meeting. So we'll receive a total of 354 duly executed proxies amounting to 27,411,954,652 units of shares. And this constitutes approximately 93.67% of the issued share capital of the bank. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Based on the report of the registrars, in accordance with the company's Articles of Association and statute, I hereby declare this meeting quorate.
Thank you. We can now move to the items on the meeting agenda. To save time, most of the motions on the agenda will be moved by me or at my instance, and thereafter, I will call on seconders from the floor before the motion is put to the meeting and a vote is taken. We will entertain comments and questions from shareholders on the financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2021, which I will lay before you in due course, and to which answers will be provided before we proceed to the next item. Introduction regulators, statutory audit committee, and professional advisors. Before we proceed, I crave your indulgence to introduce the representatives of the following professional advisors and regulators who are with us physically. The following are being recognized: the chairman of the Statutory Audit Committee, representatives of Ernst & Young, the independent auditors, DCSL Corporate Services Limited, the board appraisal consultant, Central Bank of Nigeria, Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation, Securities and Exchange Commission, Nigerian Exchange Limited, Corporate Affairs Commission, Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, and our registrars, Cardinal Stone Registrars Limited. The registers of directors' holdings and attendance at board meetings are available for inspection during this meeting in compliance with the provisions of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. Before we proceed with the issues of the day, I also would like to introduce to you members of the board of directors of your company. Mrs. Omolola Kodoso, Mr. Joseph Mbulu, Mrs. Aisha Abubakar, Alhaji Abubakar Mohammed, Mr. Andrew Ojay, Mr. Makombo Omole. To my immediate right is the Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Mudassir Amre, and to my immediate left is the Company Secretary, Mr. Somuiwa. I am Farouk Gumel, the chairman of your company. Thank you. Thank you. I will now call on the Company Secretary to read the notice convening this meeting.
Notice is hereby given that the 53rd Annual General Meeting of Union Bank of Nigeria, PLC, will be held in the auditorium, Stallion Plaza, 9th floor, 36 Marina, Lagos, on Monday, 24th October at 11 a.m. to transact the following business. Ordinary business: to present the audited group financial statement for the financial year ended 31st of December 2021, together with the reports of the directors, auditor, board appraiser, and statutory audit committee thereon. To elect and re-elect directors, to authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the auditor, to disclose the remuneration of managers of the bank, and to elect or re-elect members of the statutory audit committee. Notes. A. Proxy. In compliance with the public safety concerns on mass and public gatherings due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Corporate Affairs Commission has approved that in furtherance of the CAC's guidelines on holding annual general meetings of public companies using proxies, attendance at this meeting shall be by way of proxies, subject to the quorum provisions of the Companies Articles of Association. The meeting will be streamed live via the link that has been provided and circulated by the registrars to enable other shareholders join the meeting and follow proceedings. Shareholders were also advised that voting at this meeting shall be through the following proxies attending the meeting physically. 1. Mr. Farouk Gumel. 2. Mr. Mudassir Amre. 3. Alhaji Ahmed Rabiu. 4. Bishop Goodluck Akpore. 5. Mr. Taiwo Akilolu Odenide. 6. Alhaji Bashir Mohammed. 7. Mr. Erinfolami Gafar. 8. Mrs. Efunyemi Obideyi. 9. Barrister Ganiat Adetutu Shinyobola. And 10. Mr. Adebayo John Williams. A member of the company entitled to attend and vote at this meeting is entitled to appoint a proxy to attend and vote in his or her stead. A proxy need not be a member of the company. A proxy form was supplied with this notice. For completed proxy forms to be valid for the purpose of the meeting, they must be duly stamped by the Commissioner of Stamp Duties and deposited at the office of the Company Registrar, Cardinal Stone Registrars Limited, 335/337 Haba Macaulay Way, Yaba, Lagos, or sent to registrars@cardinalstone.com, not less than 48 hours before the meeting. The cost of stamping was borne by the bank. Statutory Audit Committee. Any member may nominate a shareholder for election as a member of the Statutory Audit Committee by giving notice in writing of such nomination, attaching the curriculum vitae of the nominee to the Company Secretary at least 21 days before the annual general meeting. Shareholders are enjoined to note that the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria require members of the Statutory Audit Committee to have basic financial literacy and an ability to read financial statements. Closure of the register. The register of members and transfer books of the company were closed on Tuesday, 7th October 2022 to Friday, 7th October 2022, both days inclusive, for the purpose of preparing an updated register of members. Right of shareholders to ask questions. Pursuant to Rule 19.2, Rule C of the Nigerian Exchange Limited's rule book, kindly note that the right of every shareholder to ask questions at the annual general meeting and in writing prior to the meeting. We therefore urge that such questions be submitted to the Company Secretary no later than 2 weeks before the date of the meeting. Financial statements web link. The shareholders can access the 2021 financial statements on the bank's website by using the following web link: https://www.unionbankng.com/2021 by order of the board, dated this 25th day of April 2022.
Thank you. I will now report the affairs of the company during the financial year under review. The statements of the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer appears on pages 6 to 10 and 11 to 14 respectively of the 2021 financial year annual report and accounts, which have already been circulated to shareholders. To have more time to entertain and answer your questions on the annual report, may we, as in previous years, take both statements as read? Yes, Chair. Thank you. The CEO will, however, answer any questions you may have on its contents. Please be informed that in exercise of the powers conferred on me by virtue of Section 248, subsection 1A of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, I hereby call for a poll on items 1 to 4 of the meeting agenda. Thus, voting for these resolutions will be taken electronically. I hereby call on the registrar to explain the operation of the electronic voting pads handed to each shareholder for voting and the time frame for each voting session. Upon conclusion of each round of voting, the results will be projected on the screen for the benefit of our shareholders and online viewers. The resolutions being proposed are ordinary resolutions, and a majority of the shareholders and proxies present is required for a resolution to be approved. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, distinguished shareholders once more. Once we commence the voting session for this meeting, voting is going to be by poll, and we have distributed voting devices to shareholders in this meeting. Now, any button on the voting device powers on the voting device, and each voting session is going to last for approximately 20 seconds. If you are voting in favor of any resolution, you press the number 1 button, and thereafter you press the OK button to submit your vote. If you are voting against a resolution, you press number 2 button, and thereafter press the OK button to submit your vote. And if you're abstaining from any resolution, you press the number 3 button, and thereafter press the OK button to submit your vote. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Sorry, can you ask the question louder so that...
Okay, I said, what
so that you're abstaining. You actually meant to press.
Okay, thank you. So we move. Adoption of audited group financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2021. Item number 1 on the agenda is to receive and adopt the audited group financial statements for the period ended 31st December 2021, together with the directors, auditors, board appraisers, and statutory audit committees' reports thereon. The directors' report and the consolidated and separate statements of financial position as of 31st December 2021, together with the consolidated and separate statements of profit or loss and other comprehensive income for the year ended on that day, have been circulated to members. In accordance with the provisions of Section 404, subsection 4 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, the auditors submitted their reports to the Statutory Audit Committee, which duly examined the report and, being satisfied, rendered the certificate earlier circulated to all shareholders. I now call on Mr. Matthew Akinlade, Chairman of the Statutory Audit Committee, to present the committee's report.
The chairman, board members, regulators, my colleague, shareholder, eminent shareholders present, good morning. My name is Matthew Akinlade, chairman of the Statutory Audit Committee. I present the committee's report on the financial statement for the year ended 31st December 2021. To the members of Union Bank of Nigeria PLC, in accordance with provisions of Section 404, subsection 7 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act of Nigeria, the members of the Statutory Audit Committee of Union Bank of Nigeria PLC hereby report as follows. 1. We have exercised our statutory function under Section 404, subsection 7 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act of Nigeria, and acknowledge the cooperation of management and staff in conduct of these responsibilities. 2, we are of the opinion that the accounting and reporting policies of the bank and the group are in accordance with legal requirements and agreed ethical practices, and that the scope and planning of both the external and internal audits for the year ended 31st December 2021 were satisfactory and reinforce the group's internal control system. 3, we are satisfied that the bank has complied with the provisions of the Central Bank of Nigeria Circular BSD/1/2004, dated 18th February 2004, on disclosure of insider-related credits in the financial statements of banks. The balances have been disclosed in Note 49 to the financial statement. 4, we have deliberated with the external auditors, who has confirmed that necessary cooperation was received from the management in the course of the statutory audit, and we are satisfied with management's responses to the external auditors' recommendations on accounting and internal control matters, and with the effectiveness of the bank's system of accounting and internal control. Signed by me, Matthew Akinlade. Other members of the committee are Dr. Marcel Ojinka, Mrs. Obafunke Alade Adeyefa, Mr. Adeolu Akinsanya, and Emeka Ugbeche. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Clause 34 of the Securities and Exchange Commission Code of Corporate Governance for Public Companies, Principle 14.1 of the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance, 2018, and Global Best Practice require an annual board and directors review appraisal, and the consultants' reports thereon should be presented at the annual general meeting. DCSL Corporate Services Limited appraised the board and directors, and being satisfied, rendered the report already circulated in the annual report to all shareholders. Mrs. Ajanaku Oluwabusola will now read the board appraisal report, which was made available to members with the audited group financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2021.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Directors, shareholders, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My name is Oluwabusola Ajanaku. I'll be reading the report on the performance of the Board of Directors of Union Bank of Nigeria PLC for the year ended December 31st, 2021. DCSL Corporate Services Limited was appointed to undertake an appraisal of the Board of Directors of Union Bank of Nigeria PLC for the year ended December 31st, 2021, in line with the provisions of Section 2.8.3 of the CBN Code of Corporate Governance for Banks in Nigeria and Principle 14.1 of the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance. The evaluation entailed a comprehensive review of the bank's corporate and statutory documents, the minutes of board and committee meetings, policies, and other ancillary documents made available to us to ascertain the level of the board's compliance and corporate governance practices, with particular reference to the provisions of the CBN Code, NCCG, and SEC Corporate Governance Guidelines, and was conducted using the following 7 key corporate governance parameters. The first was board structure and composition. The second was strategy and planning. Third, board operations and effectiveness, measuring and monitoring performance, risk management and compliance, corporate citizenship, and transparency and disclosure. We also conducted an evaluation of the performance of the board committees and deployed peer review forms to assess the performance of individual directors and the chairman. Following a review of the policies and processes put in place by the board, we confirmed that the board of directors is committed to ensuring best corporate governance practices and adherence to the principles enshrined in the CBN Code, NCCG, and the SCGG, as well as globally accepted best practices. Our review also indicated that the board is devoted to setting the pace for the observance of highly ethical standards and transparency in the conduct of the bank's business, and continued to maintain quality relationships with the executive management, shareholders, and other stakeholders of the bank. We confirm that the bank has fully complied with prior year recommendations and has appointed an additional independent director as recommended. We have noted a few areas that require improvement and preferred appropriate recommendations in our detailed report, which we trust that the board will take steps to address and implement. The report is signed by BC Adeyemi, Managing Director, DCSL Corporate Services Limited. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I will now call on Mr. Babayomi Ajijola of Ernst & Young to read the auditor's report, which was made available to members with the audited financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I wish to move that the fact that we've already received the accounts of the report earlier, that the auditors will proceed to just read the opinion page on page 9.
Okay.
Page 9, 59.
Who seconds? Okay. Okay. Is there anyone against?
Nobody against.
Okay. EY, please proceed.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Directors, regulators here present, and distinguished shareholders. My name is Babayomi Ajijola, representing Ernst & Young. As duly advised, I would take the report on page 59, but in addition to that, it's important that I take our opinion on page 54. So our report is included on, you can find our report on pages 54 to 59 of the annual report. So I'll read our opinion on page 54.
Go ahead.
We have audited the consolidated and separate financial statements of Union Bank of Nigeria PLC, the bank, and its subsidiaries together, the group, which comprise the consolidated and separate statements of financial position as at 31 December 2021, and the consolidated and separate statements of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, the consolidated and separate statements of changes in equity, and the consolidated and separate statements of cash flows for the year then ended, and a summary of significant accounting policies and notes to the consolidated and separate financial statements. In our opinion, the accompanying consolidated and separate financial statements give a true and fair view of the consolidated and separate statement, a true and fair view of the consolidated and separate financial position of the group and the bank as at 31 December 2021, and their consolidated and separate financial performance and consolidated and separate cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with the International Financial Reporting Standards and the relevant provisions of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, the Banks and Other Financial Institutions Act, both year 2020, and relevant circulars issued by the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, and in compliance with the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria Act number 6 of 2011. Moving on to page 59, we have the report on other legal and regulatory requirements. In accordance with the requirements of the 5th schedule of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, we confirm that we have obtained all the information and explanations which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purpose of the audit. In our opinion, proper books of accounts have been kept by the group and the bank insofar as it appears from our examination of those books. The group and the bank's consolidated and separate statements of financial position and consolidated and separate statements of profit or loss and other comprehensive income are in agreement with the books of accounts. And in our opinion, the consolidated and separate financial statements have been prepared in accordance with the provisions of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, so as to give a true and fair view of the state of affairs and financial performance of the bank and its subsidiaries. In compliance with Banks and Other Financial Institutions Act 2020 and circulars issued by the Central Bank of Nigeria, the information required by the Central Bank of Nigeria Circular BSD/1/2004 on insider-related credit is disclosed in Note 49 to the Consolidated and Separate Financial Statements. As disclosed in Note 50 to the Consolidated and Separate Financial Statements, the bank contravened certain circulars of the Central Bank of Nigeria. The report is signed by me on 30 March 2022. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I now lay before you the annual report and group financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2021, and will be pleased to answer any questions relating thereto before we proceed to the next item. We will take questions from shareholders. Okay, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Please, to ensure that we give the right answers, please refer to the page of the annual report and accounts to which your question relates.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, other board members here present, the regulatory authorities here present, and those participating virtually, my fellow distinguished shareholders here present, and those participating virtually, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Barrister Detutu Shinyombola. I'm the president of Highly Favored Shareholders. Mr. Chairman, I have some questions. I have some observations, comments, questions, and suggestions on Union Bank's PLC's 2021 annual report. With your kind permission, I will quickly run through them. Please. From page 17 to 20, the beautiful faces and profile of the Union Bank board. I observe that we have only 2 ladies as directors out of 8, which amounts to 25%. This is unacceptable on gender balancing. We have to improve on it going forward. From page 22 to 27, attendance at board meetings and board committee meetings is good, but can be better. We need to improve on those attendance. On page 33, operating results. I want to limit myself to group performance. Gross earnings grew from 164.1 billion naira to 177.3 billion naira in the year under review. I want to jump to continued and discontinued operations, profit before tax. This one declined from 19.5 billion naira to 18.2 billion naira in the year under review. Continued and discontinued operations profit after tax also declined from 18.7 billion naira to 16.9 billion naira in the year under review. Total non-performing loans and advances grew from 29.4 billion naira to 38.7 billion naira in the year under review. I observe a drop in our profits, a growth in our turnover, and non-performing loans in the year under review. I'm not comfortable with the growth in our non-performing loans. What are the modalities in place to recover these loans from our customers to the barest minimum so that it will not end up as bad loans to be written off? All the same, I want to seize this opportunity to thank the outgone board and the management team for their efforts and implore the new board and the management team to do more to bring our bank back to dividend-paying bank. On page 35, directors' appointment. I observed that 5 directors were appointed since the last AGM. I want to seize this opportunity to welcome them to our board and wish them a fruitful tenure in office. When I marry divestment of majority share in both chairperson's statements on page 8, with the breakdown of the substantial shareholding on page 37, I observe that we have a major shareholder now, Titan Trust Bank Limited, with the minority shareholders in our bank. I would like to know who is representing our interest, the interest of the minority shareholders in our board. If there is none, why are we not represented? From page 39 to 41, donations and charitable gifts. I observe that our CSR in the year under review is perfect because it covered health, education, social welfare, youth empowerment, and community development. My concern there is the amount we spent. Spending 1.2 billion naira on donations and charitable gifts when the shareholders don't receive a dividend is outrageous. We should be more prudent going forward. I also observed that we did not utilize these annual reports to advertise all our products like other banks do. We should utilize the annual report judiciously to advertise all our products going forward. Thanks, and God bless you richly for this opportunity. I appreciate.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, other directors, and good day, shareholders. Mr. Chairman, today, like the name is William Adebayo. Today, without any gainsaying, it is important that all of us must appreciate the effort of the majority shareholder. Because whichever way one look at it, it has shown that the majority shareholder intends to take this board and the bank itself to where the bank rightly belongs at over 50 years back. I have been a customer of this bank for the past 35 years. But whichever way you look at it, today we have to look at what happened. For some of us who are shareholders of other banks, Mr. Chairman, we will not deceive you. This bank lost millions of customers. Because we refuse to withdraw the 1,000 naira minimum deposit on savings account. But if you are competing with what the shareholders call the smart four, they were smart enough to quickly remove it. That is it. Today, Union Bank is celebrating 7 million customers. Whereas, if we had followed the step of the smart four, we will be celebrating 14 million. Because the smart four chaps removed that minimum. As a matter of fact, it's now in vogue that zero balance on savings accounts. We have to be careful today to tell ourselves the noble truth. If we want to compete favorably, we must endeavor to woo the customers back. But to the glory of God today, I want to commend this board, especially on the general administrative expenses. It went down. That is on page 143. I will combine it with page 5, which refer to our most valuable group, that is customer, communities, and stakeholder. So also with page 40 and 41. I am of the school of thought that strongly believe that every financial institution should take care of the community, because it is the people that brings the cake that will eventually grow the bank. It is important to take care of the community. But to the glory of God, you reduce that expenses and you still conveniently give very favorable things to the community. Above it all today, I want to thank this board for what I consider a very smart one. That is benefit for long service, provision of long service award. This service, this provision will go a long way to motivate your workers. They know that at the end of their career, they have a lot of award that they will go back home. There is award for over 20 years staffs. There is award for 35 years, including cash award. This is a beautiful one. Please give them a round of applause for this. I started using this bank over 35 years, and I knew where this bank was then. But it is because we were not smart enough And the smart 4 quickly grab our customer. Today, with the input these majority shareholders have injected into this bank, Mr. Chairman, it's important that we compare our products. Do a proper appraisal of our products with the smart 4. I won't want to mention them. The shareholders call them smart 4. It is because of their smartness that we have lost millions of customers. I won't deceive you. I am a shareholder of all the banks in Nigeria. They are the smart 4. Yes, we lost to them. Yeah. So today, I want to thank you for this opportunity and believing that our chairman is also a smart chairman. And our MD, yes, our MD, with his experience all over the world, will take us to that height. We must do appraisal and compare our product with the smart 4. I won't call them big, they are just smart. But with this new board, we are equal to the tax. Lastly, Mr. Chairman, I want to beg on behalf of the minority shareholders on that free float, let us be comfortable. The minority shareholder realize that the majority ones are sinkingly rich. Yes, we realize it. But as minority shareholder, we want to have a say too. Please endeavor to increase that free float so that we can be comfortable that this is our bank. So also, Mr. Chairman, I will not leave this mark without thanking the office of the secretary. It's the only link we have, because many of us have come to realize that funny fact that, okay, the wealthy class have taken our bank. But with him on this board, we still believe, okay, minority shareholder have a say. But Mr. Chairman, once again, I want to thank this board for the inclusion of one of our non-independent chairman, directors, who has also served those, one of those smart chaps. We are going to gain tremendous from him. Thank you for the opportunity given. God bless.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, thank you.
My name is Enifola Migafal, a shareholder of the bank. All other protocols duly observed. I want to start my comment from page 9, Chairman's statement. It stated there that divestment from our UK subsidiary was ongoing. So I want to know the status as of today. Then secondly, our profit before tax for the year declined by 19% from 25.4 billion to 20.5 billion. We should watch this to avoid further decline. How do we go about it? By improving our income lines and reducing costs. Then the issue of the NGS free float should be addressed to enhance liquidity. Then next, pages 8 and 9, divestment of majority shareholdings from Union Global Partners Limited and Atlas Maras to Titan Trust Bank Limited. What's the value accretive opportunities that are there for us now as a bank and as shareholders? Then on estimates, judgment, and assumptions, I want explanation. Sir?
What page?
If you go to the notes to the account, you'll find them, but it's general for all banks. Okay. It's a general question. Okay. On estimates, judgment, and assumptions, I want explanation on the extent of the use of estimates, judgment, and assumptions in the preparation of the consolidated and separate financial statements in conformity with IFRS. Then secondly, how did the actual result differ from the estimates and judgments? Our CFO can help us on that. Okay. They want to know how much the bank made from financial guarantees contracts in comparison with other income lines. Then as we know, the main business of a financial institution like a bank is financial mediation from a place of surplus to deficit. So my question there will be on credit management. I want to know how robust our collaterals pledged by borrowing customers. How robust are they, and how do we value such collateral to make sure they are of good quality when that default crystallizes? Then another one, I want to know if we are involved in CBN Bank of Industry loans to SMEs. Are we involved in that? And if we are, do we have SME audit firms to help review the financials of those borrowing customers to report on things like, one, assessing the proper utilization of the facility availed to those customers. Secondly, to assess the ability of the company to continue as a going concern. Then thirdly, to identify challenges and likely issues that may affect the company so that we'll be sure they don't have any legal issues that will crystallize to make them not to be able to pay us back. Okay, you want to speak, sir? No, you are my boss. Then I have few commendations. Oh, that's what we want. So I want to commend the board and management on the issue of we now operate our branch network with over 50% of the branch network. They are now on solar energy. This will help us to reduce the energy costs in the long run. So you are commended on that. Then we also grew total assets to 2.6 trillion. That's commendable. We also grew our equity. And we also improved our customer base to 7.8 million. We thank you. Then employment of 2,193 persons. It will also help to reduce the unemployment in the economy. So I want to commend Union Bank for that. Our sales and service centers also grew to 276. We also grew our ATMs to 927. So thank you for that. And generally, I want to commend the management for our ability to adapt, to constantly adapt in this ever-evolving macroeconomic environment. Thank you so much. And thank you for the opportunity to speak.
We are representing the females also. The Honorable and Distinguished Chairman, the Chief Executive, and the board members. My name is Honorable Ahmad Rabiu. I had thought actually during this meeting we were just going to come in and at the chairman rate, we were just going to approve the motions and move. Now, why? Because what we are looking at are things that have been done before you are coming in. And by virtue of the background of the chairman, the chief executive, and at least one of the persons that is on the board, the former minister in women affairs and industry, we have, who is also a professional, but the chairman himself, having been with PricewaterhouseCoopers, has all the exposure to look at any financial document and be able to know whether things are going well or not. Chairman, there are two categories of persons that have suffered over the years in Union Bank. The first set are the shareholders generally, and particularly at the time that we were the minority majority. We were holding majority shares, but we were spread. So many, those with 1,000 to 100 to 1,000 shares, and we constituted about 74% of the shares were held by us at one time. And then today, to the glory of God, at that time, like President Muhammadu Buhari said, he belonged to nobody, he belonged to... So at that time, there were actually no effective owners. Things were just going anyhow. And therefore, the focus of the bank was really not the best. And therefore, increasingly, those of us that had our shares being priced at 43, 44 naira per share, the shares went down until they went below 3 naira at one time. And these things happened because there was no owner. To the glory of God, today you are here. We have people who must protect their majority interest. With that, we can go to bed, sleep, and relax. And we know you'll be working for yourselves and working for us. So, now, the other group are those people who are our partners, that is the workers. The worker normally subjects himself to whatever the driver does because he's just a passenger. He will try to tell the driver this and that, but if the board, as constituted during those era, happen to drive anyhow, then of course the staffs will suffer. The staffs of Union Bank have suffered. They have suffered, and there are very brainy ones among them. There are very committed persons. We just want to call on your attention to appreciate that if some did not do very well during a certain time, it was because they were not properly driven. As the chairman knows, it's a good driver that will really drive you to safety. And so please, in whatever you do, while you recognize, I have looked at the 5-year summary on page 191. I wanted to speak to it to say that we went down from about 66 kobo, we went to 63, 84, 84, and then we went down in 2021 to 66 kobo. We believe you will be thinking about the minority shareholders, at the same time thinking of the staffs, and continue to do things that will help us to really smile with you. We believe the chief executive and the chairman are good drivers, that one will be putting the gear while the other holds the steering. And with people like Aisha, the former minister in 2 ministries, and the rest of the eminent persons, definitely you'll be properly supported. Now, finally, Chairman, as I said, my hope was not even to speak, to just come in and second the motion and move it, and then we go in about 30 minutes. That's why I even asked the auditors to really be brief. Now, on page 59, Chairman, we are aware, I happen to be among the very first to engage in the sales of mobile phones. And if you like, I can also say I made money from the sale of Econet, as it then was. We know what MTN suffered and what other organizations suffer when there is a mistake. That last paragraph on page 59 shows that there were some, let me open it so that it reads, Mr. Chairman, as disclosed in note 50 to the consolidated and separate financial statements, the bank contravened 13 circulars of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Some of these things are at grave costs. We believe we have seen companies, going under as a result of contraventions. So it is key and important to look at what may have led to these contraventions and ensure that proper safeguards are put in place and ensure that we do not allow our bank to really contravene anything. Compliance is of the essence. I am MD of Dalai Land Dry Port. What we have done in Dalai Dry Port is a very new company and starting to operate as a port of origin and destination. We have established a robust compliance department to ensure that every turn on the way, everything required of laws, extant circulars, we make sure that we meet everything adequately so that the workers that are making money will not make the money and one contravention will wipe it away. So I believe our bank is now properly structured. We assure you as shareholders, we are your marketers. We'll continue to market this bank and we believe in Union Bank. I still believe it's the best bank to do business in Nigeria, Union Bank. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do we have your account?
Sir, permit me to sit down.
Please, of course.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my fellow shareholder, those watching us online, and other regulatory authority present. My name is Mrs. E.O. Obidei, National Coordinator of Hack of God Shareholder Association of Nigeria, Incorporated. Sir, I really thank this board today. I can give you so many names. You are our risk bearer. You are our savior. Somebody take us from the journey, but he did not completed it. Another person take it up. Tantan Bank take the completion of our journey. We thank Tantan Bank. Sir, in the past, we've lost a lot of our investment because if Union Global, if you don't buy, you did not take a risk, we should have been in problem. Look at Skybank today. Look at Bank PHB and some other bank. But our own is not like that. In a board where you see people that are serious, page 22 to 27, all the committee sitting, it was so perfect, 90%. It shows you are taking us to a promised land. Thank you for that, sir. In page 166, note 37, the income contribution payment bill. Well, I want to ask this question, sir. The 980 million, why are we still contribute to that income? Why? That same page, note 35, I can see, and I've done my analysis, deposit from customer. The term deposit, customer, current deposit and savings. In term deposit, last year was 359.3 million. This year was 425.4. The difference is 666.1. What is the magic? In current deposits, it was 398.6, but this year was 5320.2. The difference is 1.34. In the savings as well, last year was 368.4. This year was 398. The difference is 29.9. In same page and note 35, the deposits for current. The local current deposit was 900 and last year was 955.4. While this year was 1 billion. The difference was 44.6. In foreign currency, current deposits, same. That was even surprised. It baffles me. The difference is 1.147.5. What is the secret behind it? That means when it continues like this, our logo, our former logo, will read strong, wise, and reliable. Big, strong, and reliable. Let's clap for Titan Bank. Let's Titan Investment. They have done a great thing. And even the staff, Baba, come and sit down. In a bank that try to accept disabled, you have put a food in when you employ a person, you have feed 10 people in a family. And you really take courage to employ a disabled. It's a great thing. Let's clap for them. Because a family that is feeding, that is depending on a disabled, will pray for this company. So let's clap for them, my people. They've done a great thing. My appreciation goes to legal department. Our legal department are working very, very hard for us to get these reports and doing a great thing. I'm not saying other staff, you are working because I know for this bank to take over by next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we will receive a better dividend. We will receive a good income from them. Because as shareholder, we are pensioner. What we know most is dividend. And whenever we see dividend, we praise them. Whenever we see our reports, if they did not give us and there is hope, this report shows there is hope for future. It shows there is hope for future. And I pray this board that God will strengthen you, will give you long life, will give you wisdom and understanding. In the Bible, the person said, I don't want anything, I want wisdom and understanding. I pray for our board that God, Almighty God, will give them wisdom and understanding. Amen. The staff that you people are training, like my other colleague says, smart bank. People will sit, they will pretend as if they are not seeing you. Are disabled and other staff. You are training them. What is the security? What are the things in place that you are putting on so that other bank will not snatch them from us? My other colleague said 1,000 naira, the remaining let me say I enjoy from this bank. I use scholarship of Union Bank. So I know. Don't let us rush. People that will stay from our customer. People that will not stay will go and they will come back. They will come back. A bank that is secure and those banks, I don't want to mention them, out of those smart bank now, today, they have, if you have, account there, before you know it, your money is an away. It flew. The meaning is that you won't withdraw your money. The only thing you see is the alert. So the thing has flew. So 1,000 has a meaning. So don't let us follow the smart bank. Since I was born, I was 41 years old when they opened Union Bank account for me. I was 41 years old. 41 years day that they opened Union Bank account for me. 21 day old. And that minimum deposit, they did not change it. So don't let us change it. Let us maintain our policy. I use this opportunity to thank Union Bank for making me a prosy and for me to be here today. Thank you very much. Once again, my name is Mrs. CEO.
Chairman.
Bishop.
Thank you very much. Chairman, members of the board, regulators, my great men and women, shareholders. I am Bishop Goodluck Akbori. I am of the Zonal Shareholders Association. Chairman, I was a little bit disturbed. The auditor, we moved in this place. Today, okay, let me say by this year, I'll be 32 years in this business. In this country, you see, I'm likely going to be the most senior person. So when I am seated in any annual general meeting, and we took a decision, look at the young man move we should go straight. And then the man who is reading to us had the guts to say, I'm going to read my opinion. What opinion do you have? You see, these things, we need to be careful. He has forgotten that we can just decide right now and say, look, we don't want this one. We have moved that we should go so that we reduce the time. This man, this new chairman and the MD, these people are ready to work for us. Why do you want to bother them? I had to attend, I left the church, right, very early yesterday because the company secretary, somebody I respect a lot, even when we went to National Assembly, I was there. You need to see how this young man was defending Union Bank. Today we have the logo, we have the name. He knows. War. We went through war. Many of them here may not know nothing. But I've been in the system. My life today is that if I have my way, we shouldn't be talking too much because these things are not done by these people. The only thing I want to ask Titan to do for us, you are now 93.41%. And we just, what is left is about 6.59%. I served on the technical committee of privatization. What the highest that can be represented is supposed to be 7%. But here we have 6.59%. Of course, we shall presume that. So when somebody talked about representation, right, of the minority, it's compulsory. Why is it compulsory? You have 90-something, but you are not here now. You can't be here now to discuss your account. But the little, call it 1%, call it 3%, call it 6.something%. The same persons that will have that will be the one that will draw your attention to many areas in the account. So it's compulsory. I want to appeal to us, please. Tan, you are welcome, but don't ever think that because you have the majority and then we should not matter. That, of course, we will not support you. We have to support you because we still exist. It will be painful to some of us. Myself, Dr. Farouk, our brother who's just lost his son, Brigadier. These are key people, you know, that have been in this system. And if tomorrow, for all the war we fought, then you say you are now majority, and then these people are kept. Either you go and take the balance, and then you delist, it's going to be war. So my advice would be, I love you. You were talking yesterday, I was so, I say, who is this man? Until somebody mentioned where you came from. I say, wonderful. So for sure, you are going to get my support. There is nothing anybody will do in this market today that I will not be told. You can't, who is that person? Somebody told me yesterday about Polaroid that they are going to court. I told the person, shut up. Bring up the matter, let's discuss it. Because they sold that bank to somewhere. So they want to go to court already. And I told the person, you can't do that. If you do that, I will go there too and rubbish you. I'm a lawyer. So please, what I want to tell you, you are going to get 100% of our support. Then, of course, this is very interesting, and it's important to us. For a while, we have not gotten any dividend. So your effort should be geared towards that area, so that Nigerian shareholders, after all the wars, all the wahala, then we'll be talking of getting dividend. It's very important. That is where you should be thinking now. Than to say, the account we have seen is okay. The profit dropped a little. But what is important is this place is breathing very well now. And I'm very happy over that. When I came now, I went to one of the places, said, the whole place is looking nice. I said, oh my God. No wonder Muyiwa is still here. You know? And I tell you, Chairman, yesterday, do you know what I saw yesterday, Chairman? We need to be laughing. We are not quarreling here. You know, when I saw you yesterday, the way you were talking to us, you know what came to me? I said, yes, I'm very sure Muyiwa has spoken with the chairman. Because it's experience, highly experienced. And he knows where shareholders can maneuver. So I thank him very much. And then you are talking well. So I want to please let us stop here and let's move to our resolutions. Okay, two of you. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Bishop, thank you for that advice. After you have spoken, let us make our own contribution too. Thank you very much. Just two of us are left, Mr. Chairman. We won't overflog or take too much time. All stakeholders are welcome. As other people said, my name is Odenide Taiwo. I represent Proactive Shareholders of Nigeria. We represent Nigeria and the World Federation of Investors. Mr. Chairman, with what our colleagues have said and what they have done, there's something special about this bank with very few other banks. Like some are people, they will say some are new generation, some are say old generation. I could remember vividly, this one of the shares I inherited from my late father. And I thank God today, I'm still a shareholder of this old generation that's even doing better than the so-called new generation bank. So, Chairman, having said that, our people have spoken a lot. People are talking about the accounts and all this thing. But there are some things you need to hold on to, which you can call the culture of the bank. They are made out to be one of the first three in those days. If I could recollect, one, engagement of their shareholders regularly. It's always, there are a lot of advice you get from that particular forum that can also help you in day-to-day operation. Valuable advice that you can quantify in terms of Naira and Kobo. It's very, very good and this thing. And the one somebody has mentioned, this thing for this one you have made provision for the staff, recognition of their services, is go along. That's been one of their practices in those days. That's one of the culture of this, of our great bank. Another thing I will recollect is that, please, I want you to empower the corporate affairs services. Little are being heard about bank. That's why you see all manner of things from online reports. Some are false. Some are tactically being used by so-called new generation bank to discredit or to demarket us. Let our corporate affairs be seen everywhere. Let them talk both online, offline, on the pages of printed, unprinted, this and all this. Let's go out again. It's what we know. That's why you see when they sing those big, strong, and reliable in those days. Please, we want them to hear from village to what have you, all this thing. And another thing the bank has, which our new generation banks are not having. Like a friend of mine was telling me, he's appointed to one of these generation banks. I said, how many? When he told me the name, I said, I don't know. I've not heard the name. He said, they only have 4 branches. But a friend of mine, he confessed something to me. One way I'm going to be one of the stakeholders to market our banks. Few years ago, I was on a business visit to him in Enugu. We were just discussing when his phone rang and we went to his house. We were in an hotel. So we drove to his house, not far from that hotel. We now saw one of these SUV being parked. They say it's from the Union Bank. The friend was now asking me, say, they want me to keep the account. He's #1 transporter in this country. Young man like me, how does it? But one thing, like when people are beginning to see that we have to market the thing together, when he told me, what should I do concerning them? He said, but one thing with them is that there are just 2 of them. They are Union Bank and one other bank. He said, you only find, there's nowhere you won't find their branches. That's why you cannot do without the bank. Please, let's still maintain this spread. Despite all this modern day and this agency banking, having a physical, branch is still very good. Like you have said in one of your reports that most of our things are now on solar. So please, let's maintain those strategic rural branches, all this thing. It's one of the things that sells us, all this thing. So those are some of the things I say. Let me say some of the things in addition to what our colleagues have said on this thing, and let's see how we as a stakeholder, we can move this thing. And I will still talk to that, my friend, whether I still maintain our accounts, whether I see all this thing. And I will talk with maybe CFO later how we can be, if there any way they want to reach that guy, all this thing. I'm ready. He's my good friend, all this thing.
Thank you.
So, Chairman, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
I wish everybody safe back to our destinations. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, a member of the board, my colleagues, and the top management. Good afternoon. Mr. Chairman, as I said earlier, maybe yesterday, and the managing director, when we met at the first time, he made mention of we have started cleaning up the books. How far have they gone on the cleaning of the books? And what is the position as of today? Because I know he has even mentioned of his action plan as at then, the chief executive. What is the position as at now? Have you achieved more? Or what are you at this stage? And the chairman yesterday has been mentioned, mentioned that the corporate responsibility, especially you don't want the customer to run away from you. You have started giving them some certain incentive, more especially to do with the school buses. Have you gone around, because I want you to keep that up so that you maintain your customers so that they don't run away from the bank. I know the bank is capable of doing everything that they can do, they will do it. And I believe with the coming of the Titan Bank in this group, I believe the sky is our limit. And I believe you are going to get what you want and the shareholder will laugh at last. But the main issue is we, our shareholders, the minority shareholders, even the big shareholders, the majority shareholders, the interest is to see how you can recoup back your investment. Maybe return on investment, which is not there for a long time. But I believe when we see the share is started going up, we know the bank is coming back. And at the long run, we'll be able to get back our return on investment. So I really want to thank the management, the board, and all those that come around this bank for the well-done job.
Thank you.
We really thank you.
Thank you.
May God help us, all of us, and to get where we want to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Once again, I think we've listened to all the proxies here present, and I will start by thanking you for the very passionate and honest and candid advice that you've given us. Like you mentioned, it's a family, and families are always honest with each other, especially when it relates to the future. It is an old bank. It's an institution, 105 years old, with new blood injection. So it is a transfusion that has happened for the second time. Like you mentioned, it was a minority-driven majority, and then it became a majority-driven minority. That was a transplant, and this is the second layer. Thank you. But I'll start by thanking Barrister Siambola, who I will answer her question around inclusion. And I think that also links to the question around disability compliance and ultimately governance, which is my primary mandate as the chairman of the board. We take governance very seriously, extremely seriously to be precise, simply because not only are we looking after shareholders' investment, but we're looking after the personal wealth of our depositors who have brought their hard-earned cash into our institution with the hope and belief that we will protect and preserve it. And so anything to do with governance, which includes inclusion, is something that we take very seriously. Today, 40% of our staff are women. It is written on page 8 of the financial statements. In addition to that, 51% of the training expenditure that we incurred in 2021 went towards supporting women. Furthermore, we have increased the number, we have created a dedicated women empowerment loan program called Alpha, which is also just targeted at women to provide affordable long-term capital. That is just on the engagement side, because it's the people that pushes the institution. And on the governance side, of course, like you mentioned, we have the Honorable Minister who is with us, and we also have Madam Lola. But we know we can do more, and we will continue to explore more, because it is through governance that you protect even the minority shareholders that we're talking about. And so this is just 4 months into us being at the helm of this fantastic institution. And we will continue to improve ourselves to make sure that everybody that is a stakeholder here is carried along. And there are regulations that are in place. And I'm looking at His Eminence the Bishop, because he gave me a very stern warning. So I have to, because as he was talking to the bank, he was looking at chairman. And I can see his cross. I say, okay, I better look at it. But Bishop, your point is very clear. And what I want to assure you is there are set out rules in the regulatory framework that we are going to comply with as it relates to what happens when you breach the float limits that have been laid out. And we are working very hard to ensure that everything to do with compliance is met with. Because we don't want to be that bank that has showed up and has done something that will bring the wrath of all the regulators that are here present and those that are not here, who are stakeholders. So be rest assured you'll continue to hear from us, and that engagement will continue on a constant basis to ensure that nothing that we do is in breach of the requirements that are in place. And we will also do more to ensure that our stakeholders within and outside are happy with us and are confident with us coming in, because there's a lot on our shoulder, a lot. We know what we have inherited. We know what comes with the stallion that is behind Union Bank. And it is not going to be under our watch that this horse, as you can see, which is ready to run, will be tamed. Not by us, sir. We will do our best to ensure that happens. Now, on the financial side, I will look at the MD, and I have kind of grouped the questions into maybe 3 categories, and I will ask the MD CEO to address them, just keeping in mind that although as much as I would like to take the credit for the performance, we also came in June. So I'm not going to sit here and say that 2021 performance, which was excellent, is by our doing. We have to give credit to the previous owners and the previous management who have done a fantastic job to bring this bank out of what was the most hostile, uncertain period in the history of the world, which Nigeria was consumed upon as a result of COVID, as a result of commodities, etc. So MD, the questions were, firstly, the profitability that dropped. Turnover grew, but profitability dropped. Some concerns around the non-performance loans that were identified in the document. There's also a question and comment around the CSR spending and how that links to non-payment of dividends. There's also an issue around administrative expenses, how it came down, and I guess it was a compliment to us, but I think it will be good for the shareholders to understand that point. There's also an issue around the UK divestment, which Mr. Jafar mentioned, which is UK divestment, and also explanation around the UGPL transaction, especially on value accretion. And then there was also conversation around our performance on CBN loans and Bank of Industry loans, those intervention loans that were present. And then Alhaji Rabiu, Honorable Rabiu mentioned around the 5-year summary of performance and issues around central bank circulars, where you mentioned that non-compliance. And then we had the point around the increase in term deposits, current deposits, retail deposits. I think those are the financial questions I've grouped together. And then after you finished, MD, I will ask the company secretary specifically to comment on page 22 and 27, which was the matter around the board attendance, considering this was something that we were not present. Is that okay? Yes, sir. MD, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. And thank you. Oh, sorry. Yes, thank you, Chair. And thank you, colleagues, for the questions. We'll split the questions into 2. I'll take some of these and I'll pass on to my CFO, more specific ones. Listen, first I would like to talk about the asset quality, because you talked about NPL and this, right? So here last year, if you look at it, of course, there has been some deterioration, which can understand because of the overall environment, but you have to look at and combine it with the recovery that is going on. So whenever you look at NPL, asset quality of any bank, you look at asset growth, you look at overall what non-performing ratio has gone, and the coverage that has been in terms of provisioning and the recoveries that has happened. So a combination of those three is important to look at. Apart from that, I think it's more important and will be comforting for you that what we are doing now and where we are in this particular year, where we are headed, right? So there are three important things when we focus on asset quality. Number one is origination. You have to make sure that the new loans that you book are the right loans. We have done a lot of work in the last 4 months, June to date, in terms of getting the selection right. I'm not saying that it was wrong, but just to refine it further. So that's where you will see this ratio coming down going forward more and more. Second, the monitoring part. When you book a loan, that it has to be monitored. A lot of bad loans, you can stop going into the NPL category if the monitoring is right. So there's a lot of work that is going on that front as well. And third, of course, is the recovery team. That the recovery team you have to strengthen and enforce and have the right recovery strategies. So there has been work going on all three areas, and there has been a lot of work done. In fact, our September numbers will be out soon. You will see by, I think, month end, we will be uploading on NGX, and you will see how the numbers are floating there, both in terms of, I would say, the growth in the core business and also improvement in asset quality, and also reduction in administrative expenses. So you will see improvement in all three. I think UK business, the question there was on UK, I mentioned this earlier as well, that this was not part of the deal which was offered. So Rothschild, who was the advisors of the previous owners, UGPL, they offered only domestic business to the bidders, and there were 11 potential bidders for this bank. So that was not on the table. And I also clarified earlier that even from our side, as a buyer, we were mostly interested in domestic. Because we still believe there is a lot to do in domestic business, and international operation, just one branch, UK, will be more of a distraction than anything. And therefore, we were not interested, and it was not offered. That has been, it was part of the deal that has been hived out to the previous shareholders who will sell the institution. We all hear in the newspaper that they have already sold, but that transaction has been separately managed through trustee, right? So whatever the outcome of that sale will be, if there is a capital gain, that will be shared with the shareholders. So that has been taken care of. Yes, there was another question which I want to take about this DCRR and BOI loans, right? Intervention loans. So yes, look, we have been very active until recently in intervention loans. Intervention loans are slowing down from the overall market, and mostly because it is CBN driven anyway, right? So from that side. But BOI, yes, as we see intervention loans are slowing down, BOI is getting more and more momentum, and we are very active there. In SME sector, particularly, we are very active. And with the team, I think the last year also and this year also, they have done a fantastic job. And I think you will listen in the market very soon. Our corporate affairs will be doing this. Last week only, we won the award of the best SME bank in Nigeria. And this is from Global Finance New York. We have not publicized it yet, but you will see very soon, news around us. So yes, so SME will continue to be an focused area for us, definitely. You would like to take the other one, which was specifically why PBT has
profitability. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And AMCON contributions. Yes.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman and MD, distinguished shareholders. So I'll take 3 specific questions, starting with the PBT. So 2021, as the chairman had alluded to, was a tough year, cost of funds wise, because in 2020, coming through COVID, the cost of funds, which is reflected in the treasury bill rate, was pretty low. So it was easier for the bank to get cheap deposits because the rates were lower. So 2020 towards the end, very low rates. Coming into 21, the rates basically quadrupled. So that difference was about 25% cost growth in our cost of funds. So top line grew by 8%, but the cost grew by 25%. Not expenses, not operating expenses. This is the cost of getting deposits from customers. That really drove the PBT decline, very specifically. Regarding AMCON, AMCON surcharge is related to the growth in the balance sheet, both on balance sheet and off balance sheet, and it's by regulation. So it's not really our choice whether we pay or not. We just have to comply with the regulations. So as the bank grows, the amount we pay will naturally grow. So that is AMCON. When it expires, the money will be clawed back into the P&L. Then the last one has to do with the donations, CSR. The bank spent or gave out about 1.2 billion naira. About 1.1 billion of that related to the police. 1 billion went to police equipment fund. So CBN and Bankers Committee supported the police after the SARS riot. And then about 124 million spent to repair barracks that were destroyed. So really of 1.2 billion, 1.1 went to support the police. So that's really what it was. It's not typical spend for the bank. Thank you.
Thank you. Secretary, would you address?
Yes, I'd like to address the issue of attendance. We typically have very, very close to 100%. But if you'd notice, 2 directors retired last year. So and they retired after the first quarter, at the beginning of the second quarter. So all those gaps that you see in there, they were no longer on the board. And then the CEO also had a couple of gaps in that as an ED then, he was not on those committees. Subsequently, he's been appointed as a CEO. He had oversight, he had to be on all committees. So the gaps that you see in there relate to basically issues around appointment and retirement of directors.
Thank you. Thank you. Progress. Thank you. So we will now move on. But once again, before we do, as a former auditor, Bishop, I'll plead that you forgive my colleagues at Ernst & Young. Item number 1 on the agenda is to receive and adopt the audited group financial statements for the financial year ended 31st December 2021. I hereby propose that the audited group financial statements for the financial year ended 31st December 2021, together with the directors, auditors, board appraisers, and the statutory audit committee's report thereon, be received and adopted. Would someone please second the motion? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Barrister. I hereby put the resolution to the meeting and request that we now vote. The voting period is 20 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the resolution to present the audited group financial statements for the financial year ended 31st December 2021, together with the reports of the directors, auditors, board appraiser, and statutory audit committee thereon, voting starts now. Voting session has ended. May I have a permission for the result, Mr. Chairman?
Please announce voting results.
On the resolution to present the audited group financial statements for the financial year ended 31st December 2021, together with the reports of the directors, auditor, board appraiser, and statutory audit committee, we have 100% voting person and by way of proxy in favor of this resolution, amounting to 27,413,886,822 units of shares. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay,
Thank you. So, following the results announced by the registrar, I hereby declare that the resolution has been duly carried. We will now move to the election of directors. This agenda item is the election of the following directors who retire at this annual general meeting, being the first general meeting since their appointment. As required by the codes of corporate governance in Nigeria, the profiles of the directors retiring at this meeting by law are provided on pages 17 to 20 of the annual reports and accounts. I shall now call on the secretary to read the names.
The following directors retired this annual general meeting, being the first annual general meeting since their appointment: Mr. Farouk Gumel, Ms. Aisha Abubakar, Alhaji Abubakar Mohammed, Mr. Andrew Oje, and Mr. Makumbo Omoile.
This resolution includes the election of myself as director of the company. Having retired at this annual general meeting, being the first general meeting since my appointment. Since this resolution relates to me, I will now call on a member to move a motion to appoint Mr. Mudassir Amre to act as chairman for the purpose of this agenda item and thereafter step down as chairman of this meeting. Will someone please raise and move the motion? Thank you. Thank you. Would someone please rise and second the motion? Thank you, Bishop. I hereby put the motion to the meeting and request that members present vote by show of hands.
Unanimous. It's unanimous, Chairman.
I hereby declare that the motion has been duly carried.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the election of Mr. Farouk Gumel, who retires at this annual general meeting, being the first general meeting since his appointment. As required by the Code of Corporate Governance in Nigeria, the profile of Mr. Farouk Gumel and other retiring directors at this meeting by law are provided on page 17 to page 20 of the annual report and accounts. In line with the Corporate Affairs Commission, approval to hold this meeting by proxies, the election of the retiring director will be taken by individual votes. Would someone please rise and propose a motion for election of Mr. Farouk Gumel? Thank you. Would someone please rise and second the motion? Thank you. I hereby put the motion of the meeting and request that we vote now. The voting period is 20 seconds.
No, the appointment of the chairman of the is by show. But this is not appointment of him as a director. And we have declared the code.
Good.
It's correct. On the resolution to elect Mr. Farouk Gumel as director, voting starts now. The voting session has ended. I have a permission, Mr. Chairman. On the resolution to elect Mr. Farouk Gumel as director, we have 100% vote in person, and by way of proxy in favor of this resolution, amounting to 27,413,866,465 units of shares. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Following the results announced by the registrar, I hereby declare the motion has been duly carried. Having concluded my mandate, I hereby call on Mr. Farooq Umar to take over and conduct the proceedings.
It's like the British Prime Minister. Thank you very much. Thank you. Next item is, would someone please rise and propose a motion for the election of Mrs. Aisha Abubakar?
Let me rise.
Thank you. And will someone please rise and second that motion? Okay, thank you very much. I hereby put the motion to the meeting and request that we vote now. The voting period is 20 seconds.
On the resolution to elect Ms. Aisha Abubakar as director, voting starts now. The voting session has ended. With your permission, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
please register.
On the resolution to elect Ms. Aisha Abubakar as director, we have 100% vote in person, and by way of proxy in favor of this resolution, amounting to 27,413,882,000. Please, come on. Display the result, please. 27,866,622 units of shares. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Following the results announced by the registrar, I hereby declare that the motion has been duly carried. Would someone please rise and propose a motion for the election of Alhaji Abubakar Mohammed? Thank you very much. Would someone please rise and second that motion? Thank you, sir. I hereby put the motion to the meeting and request that we vote now. 20-second period, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next. On the resolution to elect Elijah Abubakar Mohammed as director, voting starts now. The voting session has ended. With the permission, Mr. Chairman.
Please announce.
On the resolution to elect Elijah Abubakar Mohammed as director, we have 100% vote in person and by way of proxy in favor of this resolution, amounting to 27,413,866,622 units of shares. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Following the results announced by the registrar, I hereby declare that the motion has been duly carried. Would someone please rise and propose a motion for the election of Mr. Andrew Oje? Thank you very much. Would someone please rise and second? Thank you, Bishop. I hereby put the motion to the meeting and request that we vote now. 20-second period once again.
On the resolution to elect Mr. Andrew Oje as director, voting starts now. The voting session has ended.
Thank you.
With your permission, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
please.
On the resolution to elect Mr. Andrew J. as director, we have 100% vote in person and by way of proxy, amounting to 27,413,865,711 units of shares. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Following the results announced by the registrar, I hereby declare that the motion has been duly carried. Next is, would someone please rise and propose a motion for the election of Mr. Makombo Mwale? Thank you. And would someone please rise and second? Thank you. Therefore, I hereby put the motion to the meeting and request that we now vote.
On the resolution to elect Mr. Makombo Mwale as director, voting starts now. The voting session has ended. With your permission, Mr. Chairman. On the resolution to elect Mr. Makombo Mwale as director, we have 100% vote in person and by way of proxy in favor of this resolution, amounting to 27,413,866,622 units of shares. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Following the results announced by the registrar, I hereby declare that the motion has been duly carried. The next item on the agenda is the re-election of a director. As required by the Codes of Corporate Governance in Nigeria, the profile of the director retiring by rotation at this meeting is on page 18 of the annual report and accounts. I shall now call on the secretary to read his name.
The name of the director who retires and seeks re-election in pursuance of Article 90 of the bank's Articles of Association is Mr. Joseph Umbulu.
In line with the Corporate Affairs Commission's approval to hold this meeting by proxies, the election of the retiring director will be taken by individual votes. Would someone please propose a motion for the re-election of Mr. Umbulu? Thank you. Would someone please second the motion? Thank you. I hereby put the motion to the meeting and request that we vote now. The voting period is 20 seconds.
On the resolution to re-elect Mr. Joe Umbulu as the director, voting starts now. The voting session has ended. With your permission, Mr. Chairman. On the resolution to re-elect Mr. Joe Umbulu as the director, we have 100% vote in person and by way of proxy in favor of this resolution, amounting to 27,413,866,622 units of shares. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Following the results announced by the registrar, I hereby declare that the motion has been duly carried. The next item on the agenda is fixing the auditor's remuneration. In accordance with Section 401, subsection 2 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, the retiring auditor, Mrs. Ernst & Young Professional Services, are being reappointed without any resolution being passed. But the Act requires that the auditor's remuneration be fixed by the company in general meetings or in such manner as the company in general meeting may determine under Section 408 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. I hereby move that the directors be hereby authorized to fix the remuneration and expenses of the auditors for the year ending 31st December 2022. Would someone please second the motion?
I do. That's why I forgot my name.
Thank you. Thank you. I hereby put the resolution to the meeting and request that we vote now. The voting period is 20 seconds.
On the resolution to authorize the directors to fix remuneration of auditor, voting starts now. The voting session has ended. With your permission, Mr. Chairman. On the resolution to authorize the directors to fix remuneration of the auditors, we have 100% vote in person and by way of proxy in favor of this resolution, amounting to 27,413,866,622 units of shares. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Following the results announced by the registrar, I hereby declare that the resolution has been duly carried. In line with Section 238 of CAMA 2020, which requires that the disclosure of the remuneration of the company's managers be made at this meeting, this disclosure is provided in the audited financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2021. Item 5 on the agenda is the election of members of the Statutory Audit Committee. In accordance with Section 404, subsection 6 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, the Company Secretary received names of shareholders' nominees for election into the Statutory Audit Committee. The shareholders currently on the Statutory Audit Committee are also subject to re-election annually. I now call on the Secretary to read the names of the elected shareholders on the Statutory Audit Committee and the names of the new nominees.
The shareholders who are currently members of the Statutory Audit Committee and are seeking re-election are Mr. Matthew Akinlade, Mr. Adeolu Akisoya, and Dr. Marcel Ojinka. Pursuant to Section 404, subsection 6 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act, the following nominations were received within the statutory time limit. Mr. Matthew Akinlade, nominated by Mr. Timothy Adesina. Mr. Adeolu Akisoya, nominated by Mr. Kolaole Muftau Alaga. Dr. Marcel Ojinka, nominated by Mr. Moses Igrude. Oyedele Timothy Abidoye, nominated by Mr. Orishe Sheundede Rando Orishewemi. Mr. Agbola Olawole Musa, nominated by Mr. Adio Olaoluwa Simon. Mr. Popola Moshood Mabinuri, nominated by Mr. Olugbemi Samson Olusegun. Mr. David Abimbola Solomon, nominated by David Isaac Oyebami. Mr. Ebiemi Oluwole Kolawole, nominated by Mr. Adigun Bashiru Monya Shao. Mr. Jani Musa Adekola, nominated by Abubakar Aliu Akano. Mr. Olafadehon Oluleke Mofolaju, nominated by Mr. Oyedepo Mukaila Sani. Mr. Olani Ade David, nominated by Mr. Razak Rashid Abayomi. Mr. Ogini Joshua Oluwole, nominated by Mr. Dairo Shakiru Abolari. Mr. Jimo Oludare Tajuddin, nominated by Mr. Dairo Shakiru Abolari. Mr. Chairman, can I just make an explanation? Now, we got all these 13 nominations. They were not withdrawn. And as we know, the election of Statutory Audit Committee members is by election. It can't be done by a poll. But having not withdrawn them, we have a duty to bring it out and to name them at this meeting, and then we will then proceed to the next stage of the meeting.
By virtue of Section 249, subsection 3 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, there shall be no right to demand a poll on the election of members of the Statutory Audit Committee under Section 404 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. Therefore, the current shareholders' representatives on the Statutory Audit Committee are hereby respectively presented for return and appointment to the Statutory Audit Committee till the next annual general meeting, in line with the provisions of Section 249, subsection 3 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. In line with Section 404, subsection 3 of the Act, the Board of Directors has resolved to appoint 2 of its members to represent the Board of Directors on the Statutory Audit Committee. They are Mrs. Aisha Abubakar and Alaji Abubakar Mohammed. I hereby move that Mr. Matthew Akinlade, Mr. Adeolu Akinsanya, Dr. Marcel Ojinka, be returned as shareholders' representatives on the Statute Audit Committee pursuant to Section 404, subsection 3 of CAMA until the conclusion of the next annual general meeting, in addition to the following board members, Ms. Aisha Abubakar and Alhaji Abubakar Mohammed. Would someone please second the motion? Thank you. Yes. Observation. Okay.
They may take us, they may take it up and said, he said,
no. I have, madam, I have explained. Their nominations go to no issue because by the procedure approved by the CAC, we cannot vote them by a poll. We can only vote them by the usual election. So the nominations go to are not won't have no effect. But having not withdrawn them, we cannot be silent on the fact that we received those nominations. That's all.
Sir,
sorry.
Let's vote them for
observation,
record purpose, sir. Let's vote them one by one.
We can't vote them. It is illegal. It is
Sorry,
not allowed by the law.
Mr. Shonibi, I just want to comment.
Excuse me, sir. This
Sorry,
is shareholder for you. It won't take us.
Sorry about that.
The law does not allow you to declare a poll as regards the election of members of the Statutory Audit Committee. It's clear.
Sorry.
So, thank you, Mr. Shonibi.
Registrar.
Okay, so there were 13 nominations. And because the other 10 shareholders have not withdrawn, so the vote is going to be by show of hands. It's not going to be by poll. So we are going to conduct the votes on the 13 nominees, even though they are not physically present. So a vote will be conducted on each nominee. So that's the process. Yes. So,
yes. Please, one house. Bishop. Yes.
After 30 years of this thing, look, I partly agree with you. What the chairman has just read, because those are the people we are actually going to vote for. So once we vote for those ones, and he reads the next names, and we are not voting for those ones, they are failed.
Yes.
But the record has to be done.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The record must be done.
Yes.
What we have recorded in minutes of the last AGMs, the last two, because this is the third virtual one, is that whatever nominations were received, because we are protected by the law, because the law says you cannot declare a poll, and the effect of that is, if we declare a poll at a shareholders' election, it means that this board that holds 93% can vote for who it wants on that committee. That is the effect. So essentially, it is one man, one vote by show of hands. However, the law has said you do not declare a poll. So, and CAC has given us an approval to hold a meeting by way of proxy.
I think you are very much in order. That is, Chairman, Bishop, we are in a circumstance that was not envisaged when all these laws were in place. We are in a new normal, so it is called. We are here as proxies. People are not free to just come into this meeting. So the motion moved by the chairman, which I have seconded, has cured the circumstance we find ourselves. If we fake it, that those of us here who are proxies, who are privileged, and we vote, we are not representative of the large number. But the motion moved by the chairman, which I have seconded, fully cures our circumstance. And I think that motion is properly registered. You have had the motion as read by the chairman and seconded by my humble self. That cures our circumstance.
In addition, one more minute. In addition, if you consider the fact that they are it's on record. It's been recorded. They are appointees of certain shareholders. Now, but they have, on show of hands, they have only one vote. So if he is holding proxy for 10 people, if ideally, he should have 10 votes. But a show of hand is only 1 vote. And that's why the law says you cannot declare a vote. Those 10 shareholders must be in this room to show their hands.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay.
Excuse me, we will progress. We have gone to other AGMs and we have done it has been explained. But meanwhile, let us be conscious of other people who may want to take this in that. It doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
What this young man is saying
is correct.
Is correct. What the company is saying that we are not doing by poll. It's by showing of hand. We only count the number of people that vote for all these. If it's only 10, we are going 10 in. What the thing says again is that you can only vote 3 times.
That's what he's saying. So we're doing it by hand anyway.
After 3 times,
so
when those in other meeting when they are you don't follow, they just call it 000.
I think
You don't have to be on silver.
that is.
You don't think about less than 10 minutes. We are gone.
Yes. No. I think we're all aligned.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have 13 nominees on the audit committee roll. I won't go through their names again. I'll just proceed with the voting process. So for the first nominee on the audit committee, Mr. Akinlade Matthew, those in favor? Next nominee, we have Mr. Akinsanya Adeolu. Those in favor? Those against? Next nominee, Ojinka Mase Okechukwu. Those in favor? Those against? Next nominee, Oyedele Timothy Abidoye. Those in favor? Next nominee, Agbola Olawale Musa. Those in favor? Next nominee, Bukola Moshood Mabinori. Those in favor? Next nominee, David Abimbola Solomon. Those in favor? Next nominee, Ibiemi Oluwole Kolawole. Those in favor? Next nominee, Ajani Musa Adekola. Those in favor? Next nominee, Olafeda Olulekon Mafolaju. Those in favor? Next nominee, Olowoni Ade David. Those in favor? Next nominee, Ogini Joshua Oluwole. Those in favor? And last but not the least, Jimo Oludare Tajudin. Those in favor?
So you are reading the results. Thank you.
So, the results of the election of audit committee nominees, as a matter of fact, it's the auditor that normally announces it. Mr. Ajijola? Yes. You know, is the audit? No. Is the auditor that normally announces it? Give it to Mr. Ajijola to announce it. Yes.
Sure, this one will do the right thing.
All protocols duly observed, please. On the list, we have Akinlade Matthew with 10 votes. Akinsanya Adeolu, 10 votes. Ojinka Marcel Okechukwu, 10 votes. Oyedele Timothy Abidoye, no votes. Agbola Olawale Musa, no votes. Bukola Moshood Mabinori, no votes. David Abimbola Solomon, no votes. Ibiemi Oluwole Kolaole, no votes. Ajani Musa Adekola, no votes. Olafadeon Oluleke Mofolaju, no votes. Olowoniyi Ade David, no votes. Ogini Joshua Oluwole, no votes. Jimo Oludare Tajuddin, no votes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, in addition to the following, which I would also, for those that have been voted, I will also push for the vote of the two board nominees, which is Ms. Aisha Abubakar and Alaji Abubakar Mohammed. Would someone second that motion, please? Okay, thank you. So, would those in favor of this motion please signify by raising their hands? Those against the motion signify. None. I hereby declare that the motion has been duly carried. This concludes the ordinary business of the day. The Board of Directors would like to inform shareholders that the approval of directors' remuneration is outside the scope of this meeting as prescribed by the Corporate Affairs Commission, same being special business. However, the Board of Directors wishes to state that the directors' remuneration for the financial year ending 31st December 2022 shall be the same amount approved by the shareholders for the financial year ended 31st December 2019. Distinguished shareholders, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Board of Directors, I would like to thank you very much for your time and contributions. I hereby declare the meeting closed. Thank you.
Congrats the chairman.